A Ball's Up in Bohemia, the first volume of the unexpurgated adventures of Sherlock Holmes by P Sercombe. Narrated by Robert Powell. Part 1.
To Sherlock Holmes, she is always the woman. I have seldom heard him mention her under any other name. In his eyes she eclipses and predominates the whole of her sex. It was not that he felt any emotion akin to love for Irene Adler. All emotions, and that one particularly, were abhorrent to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind. He was, I take it, the most perfect reasoning and observing machine that the world has ever seen. But as a lover, he would have placed himself in a false position. Throughout the many years that I knew Sherlock Holmes, he preferred to satisfy his more basic instincts in a consigned moment and then move back to his life of detection without looking back. He was a one-night-only event, which was usually impulsive and therefore often dangerous. In fact, he never spoke of the softer passions, save with a jibe and a sneer. They were admirable things for the observer, excellent for drawing the veil from men's motives and actions, but for the trained reasoner to admit such intrusions into his own delicate and finely adjusted temperament was to introduce a distracting factor which might throw a doubt upon his own high-power lenses, would not be more disturbing than a strong emotion in a nature such as his. And yet there was but one woman to him, and that woman was the late Irene Adler, of dubious and questionable memory. Book 1. In the Unexpurgated Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by P Sercombe. A Ball's Up in Bohemia. I had seen little of Holmes recently. My marriage had drifted us away from each other. My own complete happiness and the Holmes-centred interests which rise up around the man who first finds himself master of his own establishment were sufficient to absorb all my attention. While Holmes, who loathed the very form of society with his whole bohemian soul, remained in our lodging in Baker Street, buried amongst his old books and alternating from week to week between cocaine and ambition, the drowsiness of the drug, and the fierce energy of his own keen nature. He was still, as ever, deeply attracted by the study of crime, and occupied his immense faculties and extraordinary powers of observation in following out those clues and to clearing up those mysteries which had been abandoned as hopeless by the official police. From time to time I heard some vague account of his doings, of his summons to Odessa in the case of the Trepoff murder, of his clearing up of the singular tragedy of the Atkinson brothers at Trincomalee, and finally of the mission which he had accomplished so delicately and successfully for the reigning family of Holland. A wittier man than myself would say that Holmes was still engaged in the art of deduction, whilst I had moved on to the art of seduction. But what may appear to have been the perfect situation was, in truth, a symbiotic disaster. Firstly, all three of Holmes's engagements had taken place over the last fortnight, and so I had missed out on three fantastic adventures that I may have chronicled, along with this adventure, for the Strand. Secondly, since I had welcomed my great friend to the day of my marriage to the dear, pretty, and beautiful Mary Morstan, I had made a devastating and terrible discovery about my wife whilst on our honeymoon. In that brief period, I had cut short the holiday, and then frittered away the time at home, plucking up the courage to reveal a secret that could only be divulged to my closest friend, instead of standing alongside the great detective to give an honest account of each case and be paid to write about it. That was all lost now, because, dear listener, merely sharing what is available only in the daily press was too little. It was on the night of the 20th of March, 18...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?